it's time for Cigar Talk, the fastest growing cigar show in the nation. Whether you're a new cigar enthusiast or a cigar aficionado, we have something for everyone, bringing you the best interviews, cigar reviews, and weekly giveaways. So grab yourself a cigar.
It's time to light 'em up.
Welcome back, Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones. We have co-host Bryant Falconer back in the studio. We missed him last week, man. How you been, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing good.
Awesome. So, we had to do the show without you last week. You were out of town. You had to go take care of family business.
Most definitely.
That always takes priority.
On everything.
Yeah, same. Brotherly love, family love. We take care of our own.
Most definitely, man.
We're glad you're back. We missed you last week.
Glad to be back. I missed
and I know
Cigar Talk.
Everybody who listened to the show last week, I don't know if you know this. I did it by myself.
Yeah.
It was rough. In fact, I had feedback saying, where was the loudmouth?
He was here.
So,
the cool part of the show was missing.
Oh, man, you hitting me deep. Hey, so anyway, let's go ahead and talk about what we're smoking on
Most
the show.
definitely, man. Today I'm smoking this new stick that came into the leaf. It's called the Esteban Carrera Unforgiven. But it's called the Super Freak.
Oh, okay. Well, see, Jay was telling me earlier.
Oh, man.
There was one called the Wrecking Ball.
Wrecking Ball, yeah.
Did he tell you what I said?
No.
I said, well, he's a Miley Cyrus fan. He'll probably love that stick.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, but, man, it's a good medium stick.
And it's huge.
Oh, yes, it's 7 by 6.5.
Oh, dude, that is so big.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so I can't. You know what? I shared with Jay one of the cigars I gave you earlier, which is that Alec Bradley Texas Lancero,
yes,
which
sir.
is, first of all, that's an insult, really, because you're smoking a cigar that's really a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a 7 by 70.
Yeah, it's a 7 by 70, and they call it the Texas Lancero.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for it. I thought you're getting a ton of filler and not a lot of complexity at all.
Okay. I will find out.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably, it's not a bad cigar. It's just, there's a lot of it. So anyway, I'm smoking the McAuliffe, Connecticut tonight.
Yes, sir.
I love this. I'm also drinking some Texas pecan medium roast coffee, which is amazing with this stick.
Yeah, it's amazing with this Super Freak, as they call it.
Yeah. You know what, that describes you.
Oh, come on. That used to be me. I am saved.
And old.
Yeah.
He's no longer the Super Freak. He's just a freak.
Just a freak. I'm Rick James.
Hey, so let's talk about McAuliffe, our sponsor.
Most definitely.
We're thankful to have them.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about McAuliffe is the variety that you get from one cigar company. You know what I mean?
All day long. They take care of people and they act like they're actually from Texas because they think they look out for everybody.
And they make a wide range of cigars.
Yes, sir.
You can find just about every cigar to fit a palate within their line of cigars.
And it's today. Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean? In fact, I was smoking one of the Torsadors. Mm-hmm. Have you smoked the
yes,
one
sir.
that's got the
gold band?
Yeah, the metallic orangish
yes.
color. Dude, that was a great stick.
That was a great stick.
We had those over coffee last week.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I think it was like, I don't remember the price point on it, but it was under $5.
Yes, it was.
I don't remember exactly.
$4.80.
$4.80?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably right.
Mm-hmm.
But we had two different ones because I had the box press.
And I had the torpedo.
Yes. And I tell you what, I lit that up, and I think I was drinking Sumatra coffee that day, and that stick really blew me away for an under $5 stick.
Tell the truth.
So if you're out there and you think you can't afford a quality cigar, dude, you'll walk in, ask for the McAuliffe line.
Yes.
And you're going to find a wide price range. You're going to find a wide, complex profile that everyone will find something that they love. And so if you haven't tried the McAuliffe, you got to try them. Go to the website and click on a link. Check out their website.
Yes, sir.
Shows all their different cigars. And then we'll talk about the ambassador program later on in the show.
Yes,
we'll come back to that. So anyway, something we want to talk about is the top 10 cigar tips.
Come on with it.
So, everybody has tips, and we want to share those tips with each other because, it's a family-oriented community. It's a brotherhood. And so I think these are a lot of the basic ones, but we've talked about different tips throughout the weeks of different shows. And so what I want to do is basically go over like a top 10 and cover a lot of ground.
Okay.
So maybe you're new, maybe you smoked cigars for a while. This isn't directed towards new cigar smokers or old cigar smokers. It's just general knowledge that you should abide by. It's, what do you call it? Etiquette.
Yes.
There's also some tips. So basically we just compiled a top 10 list of things you should know as a cigar smoker.
Yes. And especially when you're starting off, these are things that will help you integrate into the community.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about how much longer it takes if no one tells you this information.
Yeah. Then you're mad and upset. Why didn't y'all tell me this?
Right. You're over there looking like a moron because you didn't know.
Especially with some of these tips. Yes.
Right. So the first one is quality. What you look for in quality. Like for me, and everybody kind of has their own set.
Yeah.
But for me, is construction. If it's, now I will say that there's some cigars that I haven't enjoyed that has good construction. But if it doesn't have construction, that's where it starts for me.
Yeah.
When I clip the cigar and do a cold draw, if it doesn't have a good draw, I'm just like,
yeah, you're upset from the beginning. Yeah,
I already know I'm not going to enjoy this smoke like I normally would. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. And it comes down to that construction. But there are also some sticks that you smoke and they explode on you, but they're so great. So the construction.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the
that's
construction, it's a main point, and it's something that you need to pay attention to, but you also got to understand it's the stick. It's the stick.
And well, let me say on that, though, when you say that like a cigar, I posted a picture on Instagram probably 2 or 3 months ago of a cigar I was smoking that, I mean, it just blew up.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And, I mean, it looked like someone had put one of those little bombs in, and it actually exploded. And I smoked it anyway. I was like, hey, you know what? This is some really good profile. It's actually smoking fine. So I smoked it.
And that's the thing that we're talking about. With the construction, if it isn't perfect, but the stick is still good, the stick still it hits your palate. The aroma is enticing to you. Yeah, it's a drawback on the construction, but it's not a major. But then, like you said earlier, you have those that have major construction. But then you smoke the stick and you're like, what is this, a twig? It's like you're smoking wood.
Well, and I've pulled twigs out of the end of a cigar before, and it's like, holy crap, how'd that get in there? But, but going back to that, say that like that cigar that exploded on me. I had smoked other cigars in that line that didn't do that.
And that's where you get that.
So that's one of those questions, though. Is it the construction?
Or the stick?
Is it how it was humidified? There's a lot of variances that go into that. So you can't just say this one stick was bad, so they're all bad construction.
That's correct.
Another thing is a nice aroma.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? When you have that nice aroma, that's a good quality stick.
Sir.
Cigars are kind of like fine wine. They're just not rolled up and here you go.
No, sir.
A lot of things go into making that cigar. You're talking about the soil, the climate. The seed, the roller. You have all these different things that come into making a single cigar.
Yes, sir.
And so when you find a good quality cigar, you'll know it after you've smoked a while.
Yes, sir.
Because when I go back to when I first started, I didn't know what a quality cigar. You know what? I knew what I've always known is when I have a bad draw.
Oh yeah,
That's the worst.
That destroys a stick from the beginning with me. A bad draw, I would actually do something that is another tip on this list, and I would it's done. It's done. I'll get up. I'll walk back to the humidor and find another one.
Yeah, and I tell you what, my wife, and my wife doesn't smoke cigars, but she knows that I would be so frustrated with a cigar that doesn't have a draw.
Oh, yes.
That she would be like, hey, life's too short. Get another one.
Get another one.
And so that's been my mentality. If I can't get a draw on it, I'm done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's move on to tip number 2, which is when you're starting out smoking cigars. This is for the beginner. I'm going to say that you should usually start out with something like a light Connecticut.
Okay.
I mean, like, what would you recommend?
I would truly recommend light Connecticut or starting off with the acid line. Something light,
And
like
see,
a blonde.
I never, well, I won't say I never smoked an acid because I have. I didn't care for them, but I didn't smoke an acid until I'd already been smoking cigars probably for about 3 years, 4 years.
Okay.
And so I didn't enjoy it. But that being said, if I had never smoked a cigar
and started with that,
I might have been like, hey, that's not bad. But, the thing about an acid or a infused cigar is that once you really learn to appreciate the taste of a good tobacco, it's hard to go back.
Yeah, but see, that's why it's great to start with.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It gives you something to start with so you can learn how to smoke a stick. There is an art to learning to smoking a cigar.
And acids are made with quality tobacco. You know
tobacco.
what I mean?
And most of them are light. There are some that are heavy, that are bold, but most of your acids are light, especially a blonde.
Right.
You start off with a blonde. It's something nice and light for you to get an understanding of smoking a stick.
Now that I think about it,
Uh-huh.
I started out with a blonde.
Okay.
Back when I was in high school.
Oh.
All right. That's enough of that.
I'm going to leave that alone.
No, but I'm with you. I think a smooth, light Connecticut. In fact, I got a friend that's going to a Perdomo event tomorrow night down in San Angelo.
Okay.
Shout out to Vic. One of our Patreons.
Okay.
Now, that's not who's going. He's already going to be there, but he invited one of the guys that I know.
Okay.
So, anyway, he's going to go down there, and he asked me what I would recommend. And I said, well, out of the Perdomo line, since you really don't ever smoke cigars,
Come on.
the Champagne line would
Yes.
be perfect.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Champagne sun-grown.
Yeah. Very nice, delicate,
Yes.
but good construction.
Good construction,
And-
nice draw, a great aroma.
Absolutely.
Something to start with that we will give you an understanding. Okay, yeah, man, I like this,
Yeah.
and you'll keep going.
Well, what he wanted to know was he wanted to know a cigar that wouldn't kick his butt.
Oh, well.
Because I had given him a cigar once.
Oh
And
yeah,
he said that he turned green about a quarter of the way in. And I was like, yeah, but you don't smoke cigars.
Yeah.
I said,
And-
start with something light.
and you are a bold man.
Well, most of the time, and especially back then, I really was. So anyway, that's our tip or advice to beginners is start light, get your bearings, figure out what you like.
Get your feet wet.
Yeah, and see if you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Just take your time. Don't be in a rush. Here is cigar
That's what she said.
tip number 3, and that is buy a cigar at the shop you're smoking at.
Almost definitely brick and mortar, baby. Got to
Yeah,
support them.
Exactly.
Gotta support 'em.
And what's funny is we've said this before.
Uh-huh.
You don't show up to a restaurant with a chicken in your
Yo,
purse.
sure don't.
You know what I mean? So when you go to the shop, and also take advantage of the tobacconist that's there.
Yeah.
Especially if you're new. Go in there, let them know. And I do this today. I mean, I've developed some really good relationships with several tobacconists at several different shops. So I can go in and say, hey, man, I'm looking for something new. And I've been working with those tobacconists for so long that they actually have a good understanding of what I like.
Yeah, they know your palate.
Yeah, and they will lead me to something that I would never even think about smoking.
Yeah, but it's something that you would smoke because they know your palate.
But I didn't know about
Yeah,
it.
you didn't know
Right.
about it, and that's what a tobacconist is supposed to be. He's supposed to be your guide. He's like you go on this journey, which cigar smoking to me is a journey because there's so many types, there's so many manufacturers, there's so many blends. You want somebody that can guide you down a path that allows you to explore your own palate, for one thing.
Absolutely.
And that's what a tobacconist is. That's their job, to help you understand your palate, to gear you to steer you to sticks that will excite your palate, and then give you an understanding. Okay, this is new. How about trying this? How about trying this? You find out more about cigars because I started off with one type, Monte Cristo.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, I still buy me a box of Monte Cristos, but I try everything else in that humidor. Jay comes in.
Why are you still wasting your money? That's what I want to
Because
know.
Monte Cristo's still a good stick to me.
I'm just messing with you.
Hey,
let's get to the tip number 4,
Come on.
and that is cut your stick properly.
Oh.
So, and that sounds so basic and mundane, but I'll tell this story. Back when I first started hanging out with the Leaf, I'd been smoking cigars for a few years, and I'm sitting over there and I'm smoking a cigar, and I hear old man Bill who the hell cut this cigar? And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was me. And he came over there and he's like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I was like,
Bill.
that's apparent. So he's like, you see the cap on the cigar? And he showed me his cigar. And he was like, you cut yours completely off.
Yeah.
You know, I had gone way down low. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the cap is.
Okay.
And then he explained it. Hey, you look for that little cap. It looks like a small yarmulke that goes around the shoulder of the cigar. You don't want to cut below that line. And he said, really, you don't want to cut close to the line because you leave that cap on so that your cigar stays intact.
And how many newbies have cut their cigar, started smoking, and it started unraveling on you in your mouth?
Right. I used to have that happen all the time, and I had no idea. You know what? I thought that was bad construction.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Right.
It was
me.
Yeah, 100% you.
Right. Now, let's also talk about another etiquette. When you're cutting your cigar and you're using the house cutter.
Oh, come on with this
don't
one.
stick the cigar in your mouth and then cut the
stick. I didn't wake up with you.
Right.
No.
I don't want what's in your mouth in my mouth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
So anyway,
what I love is Jay has this chart now, and he
I saw that.
He took from people that were cutting in the leaf the caps that they were cutting off, and he actually made a chart of it to show where you're supposed to cut and improper cuts.
Right.
And he brings that out when he gets someone in there that's new and they say, I want to try smoking cigars. He educates them there. That's a great tobacconist. You know, he's giving you education and also steering you toward the best stick for you right now.
Absolutely.
I love it,
and
man.
that's why I don't not use those guys' expertise.
yes.
That's what they're there for.
Oh, yes.
So also, while we're talking about cutting your cigar, there's three main types of cutting your cigar. You have the guillotine cut, which is just a straight cut. You know, you want to cut above that line on your cap. But then the next one that a lot of people use, and I think you use quite a bit, is the V-cut.
V-cut.
Or it's also called the wedge cut. I don't really care for that cut. I will use it. No, I won't. No, I won't. I like the guillotine cut.
Do?
I'm straight cut all the way.
All the way? Okay.
So no,
I use hole
say
punch
that,
too.
I will say on occasion I will use a punch, but basically when I like to use a punch is whenever I'm smoking a box press.
Yeah.
And it's a square top.
Yeah.
So if you use a guillotine, you're going to squish that
top.
and it doesn't work out well. So if I'm smoking like say a flathead 660,
yes,
I always use a punch.
And that's what I always use a punch on that. I got this.
Now I could see on that you could use a V cut maybe. Yeah. Would that work?
It would work because it actually doesn't cut in and it doesn't compress the
right. And I would even see maybe on that maybe cutting it twice, corner to corner. Both ways. Looky there, coming up with something new for you, huh? Now, I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'll try it just to see.
I know you will. So, but no, I use a punch on those type of cigars because it does make it easier to get a good draw without having to take a chance on squishing it.
Yes, sir. And destroying the construction of your stick.
Absolutely. So, the other one is let's cool down on the crack torch. We're not smoking crack. I know everybody's got a cool jet. I've got several cool jets, but that doesn't mean you're smoking crack and you're getting it all the way down to get your fix.
Man, there's a skill to using a torch. There's a skill to using a single flame versus a triple flame.
I don't even know how you use a single flame.
People use them, man.
That is tough. That is tough. And let me tell you, the only time I enjoy, or I wouldn't even say enjoy, the only time I think I need a single torch is whenever it's a thin, precise flame and I'm just touching up.
Okay.
Like if I get a bad run on one side,
then
I can touch it up with a precise, because you don't want to use a quad jet trying to touch up a cigar.
Because you're going to destroy it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to destroy it.
The tobacco is not meant to get that hot.
No, it isn't.
And so I prefer, like when I'm at the leaf, and I used to keep them at home, but it's just a pain, and I'm lazy. So what I'd like to do, though, is get a couple of cedar sticks, or I just get one, and what I do is they're the long ones, so I fold them in half, and then I use my torch to light those up, and then I use that cedar stick. And I love lighting a cigar that way. It's a better lighting. It's even. It's a soft flame.
And you also get that flavor of the cedar coming in with it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And see, that's what I do. I'm telling on myself, or Jay don't get upset with me, but I take a few of those cedar sticks.
Thief.
With me, and I put them in my travel pack. So I always have cedar sticks with me. And you light it, it's that soft flame, and when you're inhaling, you're bringing in that cedar taste with it. So it enhances that stick.
Right.
Versus you're sucking in the butane, and now you're like, especially with a Quadjet, oh man, with this new Zycar fuel, that high performance,
right.
Oh man, come on, dude.
Now I will say too that I enjoy using, if we have the long cigar matches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
what you got to realize is usually it takes two. Mm-hmm. Don't rush it. Take your time, get it lit. I like to toast the foot. I like to smell that toast. You know what I mean?
Because that lets me know what I'm getting.
What's coming.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's kind of like smelling that apple pie.
Oh, yeah, before you get up on that.
Yeah, I'm fixing to enjoy this bad boy. So take your time, light it. Don't torch the hell out of it. Because what that does is it scorches the tobacco and makes the flavor go bitter. Mm-hmm. Now, the next tip is, and I'll just say the band. The band on your cigar. This is really up to you to take off the band or not to take off the band. That's the question. What do you do?
It depends on the stick. I always try my bands before I smoke my stick. And if it's loose, where as like with this
Speak up
one,
in the mic.
It's loose like this one where it twists.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it off until I get to that point. I'm gonna let the band. I'm gonna let it smoke on up.
If it's tight or loose.
If it's tight, I'm gonna take it off before I start smoking, because I don't want to. Once it gets to that point, and I want to continue, especially if it's a good stick, and I want to continue going, it's gonna be a fight trying to get that band off.
Let me tell you something maybe you don't know.
What's that?
When you leave the band on,
no,
listen to me. You don't know what I'm gonna say.
Yes, I do.
What?
That the heat and the cigar kind of shrinks, so the band becomes loose, and you can take it off. What are you gonna say?
The heat relaxes the sticky pepin inside that band so that the glue relaxes and it's easy to take off.
I have had in the last 2 months 4 sticks where the band was tight. I smoked it down and it didn't get loose. And then when I started trying to take it off, it became a problem, and I started tearing the wrapper.
All right, maybe it's a theory. No,
but it comes down to exactly what you said.
That's
it's
what
on you,
say. And that's the golden. Well, I won't say golden rule.
Yeah.
That's what the thought process is on smoking it now. But that's not why I smoke it up to the band. Mm-hmm. I smoke it up to the band because, to me, the band helps hold the cigar together.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Even though you're not cutting the cap off, sometimes you still have some issues with a cigar coming unraveled. So if you leave the band on, it helps maintain the cigar. Now, sometimes I do take the band off, and usually it's because it's too loose to begin with, and I'm not going to jack with it sliding up and down. And a lot of times, I don't take the cigar band off until I'm like, what's that smell? Oh,
you smoking the band.
Yeah. And I've had like Matthew several times be like, hey Rob, your band's on fire. I'm like, hey man, I'm smoking it. All right, so let's go to number 7. And that is, and this is an important one for me to take. Okay. Enjoy your smoke.
Most definitely.
Don't get in a hurry. What are you here for? We're going to sit back and relax. You know, Paul was kidding around with me the other day, and he's like, Rob smokes 3 cigars to my 1. I say he was kidding, but
it's true.
I don't set my cigar down.
No, you don't.
I mean, I rarely set my cigar down. And I'm not real sure why that is.
You think somebody's going to take it?
Well, maybe. But I'm going to try to force myself to be a little more patient with my smoke.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, look, we're 25 minutes in, and I'm halfway.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And that was a shorter stick.
Yeah.
That's a Robusto.
Yeah.
So I'm only halfway through, and normally I'd be just about done.
No, you'd be done on another.
Right. So, and you know what's funny is, I don't know if most people notice this, but usually when we start the show, I'm smoking something, and then after the break, when we come back I'm on something else.
Yeah. And I'm still on the first stick.
Right.
Because like right now, I'm still in the first third of this one.
Yeah, but that's a 70 ring gauge.
And I am. Oh man, for real, I'm liking this.
Is it really?
I am liking this, man.
What kind of flavors are you getting out of that?
I'm getting a nutty flavor out of it. It's a little creamy, but I'm still in the first third. I'm looking for a pepper in it, but I haven't tasted that yet.
I got you. Yeah, I like to go like that cedar nuttiness, creaminess, then pop up and get some black pepper. And really, I tell you what I really love is that, and that's the red pepper. When you get that red pepper, what makes
retrohale it too.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know which cigar does that really well is the LFD Chapter 2.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
you can almost tell that it's going to be a red pepper cigar because that tobacco is like a oily reddish brown.
Yes, it is.
Reddish brown, not dark.
It's a reddish brown.
And I was just like, wow. And you know what's funny is it has so much red peppery that when you've been smoking on that cigar for about 45 minutes, your lips get a little numb and some heat.
Yes.
Because of that red pepper.
Yes,
and you're
sir.
like, I like that.
I love it, man. I love it.
All right. So the next one is try not to ash. Don't ash too early.
That should have been number one on the list.
No.
I'm serious, man. I hate to see people do that, man. Like I said, the only time I do that is if I get a stick.
No.
What's that?
You're not ashing.
Oh, you talking about the
Yeah.
the long ash.
Well, no, don't ash too soon.
Yeah.
But don't not ash at all.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. I see all these people doing it on Instagram.
Oh, you're talking about them
where
long
they-
ashes.
Yeah. And you know what? If you want to have a long ash, you're having fun with it, knock yourself out. Everybody has the right to smoke their cigar the way they want to. But when I'm in a cigar shop and I'm hanging out and I see somebody like leaning their head back, smoking their cigar with the cigar going straight
like
up.
they're smoking a periscope or something.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no way that you can just be like at ease
Or enjoying
and
it.
enjoying yourself
Yeah.
if you're like snorkeling. You know what I mean? So anyway, don't ash too often because then you don't have a nice ash on the end.
Yeah.
And that ash actually is like an insulation of the heat, and it keeps the heat a right temperature so it burns the tobacco evenly. So when you're constantly ashing all the time and you get it down to the cherry, you're more out to get a runner because that heat will go to one side and then bam.
We had a situation yesterday, and it was funny at the Leaf. The Colonel was over there smoking, his cheap cigar, and they started canoeing. And I mean, it was funny because he was smoking it straight on, had it sitting straight on, but the stick was curled up at the end, and there was a long run under the bottom that was still wrapper, and everything inside of it was burnt out.
Wow. So it was curved.
Yes.
I've actually seen that happen before.
Oh man, we were sitting. Jay actually took a picture. And he said he put it on Instagram. I fell out laughing. I was like, look, and he's like, I'm trying to do this. I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Colonel got skills. All right, so here's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't mash the ash.
I hate that, man.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that's something that I've never done because someone told me early on. But if you're new, most of you guys already know this, but if you're new, take this to heart. When you're done with the cigar, just set it
down
on the ashtray.
Yep.
It'll go out. It
Yep.
usually goes out within a minute or two, and it's not just like a big bomb of
Yep.
smoke.
That's
And when you smash it, what happens is you're smashing all those oils, and it actually usually smells ridiculously
Horrendous.
Yes, it's not good
At all.
and it just makes this big plume of smoke,
Now-
and then it doesn't go out
It doesn't go out. You got ash up there. Now we have to sit here and smell.
and fan it away. You're just like, dude, take that outside.
The only time, like I said, the only time I've done that is when I had a terrible cigar and I didn't want it anymore. I'd smash it in there, but you're enjoying it. Just sit it down and walk away.
Exactly. All right, so the last tip is for your shelf life of your cigar.
Okay.
And here's the thing. If you get a good quality cigar that's been humidified correctly at the shop, when you leave, that cigar will usually last, depending on, of course, where you're at. I mean, if you're in Arizona, it's probably going to dry out a lot quicker.
West Texas.
Right, even West Texas. But in general, a cigar will usually last between 24 to 48 hours.
Yes, sir.
After that, it's going to dry. It's not going to smoke as well. You're not going to get the flavors that were intended by the blender.
Yeah.
And it's just going to diminish. So if you're going to be smoking cigars, you really need to have a humidor at home. You know what I mean? Especially if you really get into it and you start smoking pretty regular basis,
yeah,
you're going to want to have a humidor.
Because you don't want to waste your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Or waste your sticks, because that's, you have alcohol abuse. You're abusing that tobacco.
absolutely.
You're abusing
and this is a product that over 200 hands
have touched. Yes.
to create this masterpiece.
Oh, come on with
and
it.
then you leave it on the dash of your car.
Treat it like a Philly.
Right.
A backwoods.
So, and then also know that whenever you set up your humidor at home, you usually want to be like right around 70% humidity and 70 degrees. You have some variation back and forth. And also, I read an article back, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago that was talking about if you primarily are smoking like dark Maduros, you really only need to keep it about 64 to 65.
That's some good information.
Yeah, because humidors maintain more humidity because of that leaf.
Yeah.
And so if you keep them at 70 or higher, that's something that Mike Rosales shared with us, was that, those Roma Crafts, really, you don't need to be more than 65% humidity.
Yes, sir.
So, it also goes into what you smoke. So do a little research if you plan on storing cigars, because nothing's worse than opening up your humidor and you got trash.
Yeah, and you got to have a quality humidor too. Something that you're
absolutely.
taking care of and you seasoned well, and it's equipment that you must have if you're a cigar aficionado.
Exactly.
It's equipment.
And, one of the most important things to look for when you look for a humidor is that it has a nice seal when you close it. If, when you lift it, if it just pops right up, it's not tight enough. When I lift my lid up on my humidor, it's like almost I'm going to lift up the humidor before it like breaks free. You know what I mean? I don't know if I told you this. I actually got a, what do you call it? Not a coolador, but a cigar door. Did I tell you that?
No.
I haven't brought it out yet. It's still in the box.
Okay.
It's in my house. It's a 400 count.
Wow.
Cigar door. I guess that's what you call it. But anyway, I was planning on setting it up right there, and then, we're getting crowded in here.
Yeah.
So it's like, I got to move stuff out before I can move stuff in. So
you sitting over there with all that wax like you're a DJ.
Right. So anyway, guys, that's our top 10 tips. I hope maybe you learned something. If you got some other tips that we didn't have on the list, feel free to shoot us an email and let us know what you think.
Yes.
We love hearing new tips. It might be something that we don't know.
Come on with it.
Yeah, so definitely. So coming up next, we've got a guy off of Instagram, Scotch&Time, and he is a Scotch and bourbon expert.
Come on with it.
Now, have you drank my Scotch?
Nah, bourbon.
Man, I have only had Scotch once, and Ed gave me some, and I tell you what, man, it was good.
Which one was it?
It was now I could say this wrong because I'm not 100%, but I believe it was Dewar's 21. That's 21-year-old Scotch, and I tell you what, man, it was amazing.
Okay,
but here's the thing about that is now I'm like, I don't want to buy cheap crap.
Yeah.
Because I want to,
you
once
got
you
that
had
taste.
That, once you have the good
taste.
stuff, you don't want to go back.
You
and
acting like you smoking crack.
Right. So, I'm usually the bourbon guy, but I really, after drinking that Scotch, I really want to try more Scotch.
Okay.
And so maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to have a new
structure.
bottle. I see you got a big, nice... that almost sounded wrong. You got a big, nice ash over there. He does have a big ash. But anyway, hey guys, after the break, we'll have a interview with Scotch&Time. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey guys, thanks for hanging through the break with us. We've got a special guest with us today. You've probably seen him on Instagram. He goes by Scotch&Time, but we've got Eric the one and only, with us today. He's going to be telling us about some scotches and some whiskeys and anyway, about some good pairings. How are you doing today, Eric?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, so we appreciate you taking out the time. From what I understand, you're actually traveling and you're in California at the airport right now. Is that right?
No, I'm actually in Mexico in Los Cabos at the airport.
Oh, wow.
Headed to LAX and then headed to Kentucky for a big bourbon event I'm hosting.
Oh, nice, man. So what have you been doing down in Mexico?
I was here to drop off my daughter at a 3-week neuroscience camp.
Oh, nice.
Super excited. But decided to take a couple days to recharge before my my bourbon event. I'm hosting a big bourbon event between Louisville, Kentucky and Bardstown with some major brands. So I've got Four Roses, Michter's. I've got about 10 of the top brands in bourbon all hosting me and pouring some special bottles for the other influencers.
Oh, very
nice.
So
what I do when in terms of whiskey is I'm not an influencer per se, although I guess I am, but I host events all over the country that are whiskey related, and because I have a lot of connections on both the brand side and the influencer side, I host events where a lot of influencers from all over the country come and drink for free and have a good time, and we give the brands exposure that are participating.
Okay.
And it kind of was just done in fun and has become actually a paid job. So it's not too bad.
Hey, man, you're getting paid to drink and have fun. Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. So
I thought maybe while you're down in Mexico, did you have any tequila?
No. I'm actually strictly a brown spirits guy. So I don't drink any vodka, gin, tequila. In fact, for a while I was only whiskey, but now I'll drink a little rum, and I have some cognac sponsors, and I actually found out, especially for cigars, I prefer smoking cigars with cognac more than I do whiskey, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoy both, but depending, like I'm big into hardy cognac. It's a little bit more floral, so it takes away some of the overly sweet notes that cognac can sometimes have. And I guess it depends on what cigar I'm smoking, whether I go with a cognac or a whiskey. Depends on the wrapper and the filler and stuff like that. But I enjoy it. But yeah, I only drink brown spirits. Yeah, when you drink as much as or have the opportunity to drink that often, you have to be picky.
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm pretty much just a bourbon guy. I haven't ever drank scotch before. I've never had cognac before. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't even know what cognac is. Can you tell us what cognac actually is?
Cognac is in order to be considered a cognac, you actually have to be particularly from the cognac region of France. Otherwise, it is a brandy. So cognac is part of the brandy family, but it is specific to the cognac region.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like with being Kentucky straight bourbon, obviously you have to be Kentucky, and with like Jack Daniels and other Tennessee whiskeys, I mean, they can technically be called bourbons because by the law and the regulations of bourbon, pretty much every Tennessee whiskey is a bourbon. But Tennessee doesn't want to associate themselves with that name, so they call themselves Tennessee whiskey.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, they go through an additional process where they do a charcoal filtration. So, and they call it the Lincoln County process. And that's the only difference is that charcoal filtration. But in order to be a Tennessee whiskey, you have to go through that process. And once you've gone through the Lincoln County process, you are a Tennessee whiskey and not a bourbon.
Now, if you were in Texas, could you do the same thing and filter it through the charcoal and be called a Tennessee whiskey?
No, because you still have to be made in Tennessee.
I got you. I just wanted to verify that.
Yeah, and that's why by all regulations, Tennessee whiskey can call themselves bourbon. They just want to differentiate themselves.
I see. Awesome. So what's the difference between Tennessee whiskey and, Kentucky straight bourbon?
In order to be Kentucky straight bourbon, because you can call yourself a whiskey after like 12 months, but in order to be considered a straight bourbon, you actually have to be aged 2 years in a new oak barrel.
Okay.
Those are the main regulations. Now, if you want to be a bottled and bond whiskey, you have to be 4 years old, and you have to be exactly 100 proof. So that's kind of silly because I would say 100 proof and higher is better. But to be a bottled and bond, you have to be 4 years old or older, but you have to be exactly 100 proof.
Okay. So if you were over that, you wouldn't be able to be bonded.
Yeah, you would be you can be a Kentucky straight bourbon. You can be a bourbon. You cannot be a bottled and bond unless you're exactly 100 proof.
Okay. Well, we've actually been drinking some Colonel E.H. Taylor bonded. Have you tried that before?
Yeah, E.H. Taylor is solid throughout the lineup. So pretty much their entire product line is very tasty. And then some E.H. Taylor can kind of go nuts with the pricing. So they have some rarer ones, some that they don't make very often, and then they have like their barrel strength, like cask strength, is a little bit more expensive, and then their 4-grain whiskey that they created 2 years ago is kind of nuts now. So the retail on that should be about $89, and it sells for about $500.
No way!
It's rare.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2017, it won Whiskey of the Year. So that kind of bumped up the price. There's kind of a whiskey guru called Jim Murray, who writes bourbon books and whiskey books, and basically when he picks something as a top pick, the prices jack up, kind of like what Robert Parker does for wine.
I got you.
It's a little nuts.
Yeah, well, we're lucky that doesn't happen in the cigar world as much.
Yeah, and I think a lot of when you look at cigar aficionado picks, I mean, generally that top 20 list is definitely hit or miss. Carrillo, I was definitely not a fan of. It's supposed to be cigar aficionado's top cigar, and I did not love it. I tried it 3 times just to make sure that I didn't get a bad cigar.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not a big fan. Of course, the Shark won the previous year, and that Fuente, it was kind of weird because it was limited edition, right? So normally they don't, they want something that's a little bit more approachable and easier to find than that in the Fuente Shark. But
right.
I definitely like it. I definitely like the Shark. It's one of my go-tos.
Yeah, I'm a big fan if you can find it.
Yeah, that's the problem now.
Right.
I've seen places sell it for like $60 a stick. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. But the biggest thing on naming cigars a top 10 is it just, even if it's not a scarce cigar, it becomes a scarce cigar overnight.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what the premium world is. That doesn't matter whether it's cognac, whiskey, cigars, any luxury products. Like I used to do a lot with watches, hence the Scotch&Time, and a lot of watches are like that, where you get on a wait list, you buy it, you could flip it for thousands of dollars more.
Really?
If you're able to get it. Yeah. Wealthy people, they want what they want. They want it right away. So, and I think that's really damaged the bourbon world. Because bourbon, I got into bourbon because it was supposed to be a less expensive alternative to Scotch, and now it's really not. You can certainly find some great bourbons that are reasonably priced, but the rarer bourbons are crazy inflated.
Wow.
You take a Pappy 23, and the retail on it is about $250, and it's going for $2,500 to $3,000 on the secondary market. So you go to the liquor store, and those prices are even worse.
Yeah, that is crazy, man.
Yeah, supply and demand, and I think it's a shame because it takes away from people who actually want to drink it, because now people are trying to use it as a stock.
Right, they're saving it.
Exactly.
I've never had any Scotch, so if you were introducing a bourbon drinker to Scotch, which direction would you point them to?
Well, first I'd probably ask them, have them try a few to kind of get their palate. But as a good transition, you probably want a Scotch, because the main difference between Scotch and bourbon in terms of almost all Scotches are aged in a pre-filled cask. So Scotch, because of the pricing, is often aged in a bourbon barrel, but it can also be aged in port, in rum. Sherry is very popular. So the top 2 Scotches generally are aged in bourbon barrels, or like Oloroso sherry cask. So I found a lot of bourbon drinkers, because like with Scotch drinkers, the majority love sherry cask. But I found that for bourbon drinkers, they don't necessarily love the taste of sherry. Normally, for somebody who's in bourbon trying to get into the Scotch world, I would probably start them off in a bourbon aged cask or a rum cask. I think those are probably the easiest transitions.
Okay.
So perhaps like a Balvenie Doublewood is a good intro.
Well, I'd have to write that down.
Yeah, they have a Balvenie has a Doublewood, and it also has a Portwood. So that's a real good entry level. And also like Glenfiddich, actually for the U.S. market only, they have a 14-year-old aged in a bourbon barrel. So that's also a very easy to transition drink. That's not too expensive. So both of those you can get in the $60 to $80 price point. So it's a good way to start. You don't want to go with an expensive Scotch that you don't like.
Right. Well, hey, I appreciate the tip. So let me ask you this. If you were wanting to venture out and actually try a cognac, what cognac would you think a bourbon guy would like?
Cognacs are definitely sweeter, so and they're a little bit lower proof. So most people who get into cognac, it's actually not a bad way, because cognac is kind of for everybody. It's sweet enough and light enough. It goes down fairly well, so that if you're especially if you're a cigar smoker, I think most people would like it. Now, I'm not big into the entry level cognac, so I don't drink a lot of the Hennessy that seems to be really popular. I'm more of there's a great cognac called Hardy, Hardy. It's a little less known, but they make really superior cognac.
Okay.
Just like in rum, I literally drink zero rum, with the exception of Foursquare rum. And if you're into bourbon and you're familiar with Fred Minnick, who's probably the king of bourbon, he's written like 6 books on bourbon. He is probably the most well-known bourbon blogger on the planet.
Okay.
And he writes a lot for Forbes, and he gets like 2 million views sometimes on his Forbes articles. But he calls Foursquare rum the Pappy Van Winkle of rum.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I would definitely recommend Foursquare rum, and I would recommend Hardy cognac, because even at their entry level, like their $59 level, the Hardy is spectacular. If you go to XO, which is about $120, it's blow your mind good.
Really?
And it is actually older. Just less than 2 years ago, in XO, which is short for extra old, and XO cognac could be only 8 years old. They recently changed it where you have to be, I think it's 10 or 12 years. But Hardy XO has always been 20 years old. So it's more than twice the age of all other XO cognacs. And they do something else that's interesting. They normally in bourbon, you water it down afterwards. So bourbon has to go into the barrel at 125 proof or lower. So what the Hardy does is they'll go in and they go at a low entry proof, and then they will add water while it's aging, so that the water actually takes on the flavor of the barrel as well as the flavor of the whiskey. So at the end of the process, you're not just watering it down, because most whiskeys and most cognacs, they are watered down after they're removed from the barrel prior to bottling.
So then you're basically breaking down the flavor versus aging the water in.
Yeah, and that's why I'm particularly a cask strength guy. Most people think cask strength or barrel strength is too strong, but that's when you can add ice or you can add water to your taste. To me, I don't want anything to water down my beverages, so I want it at full proof. And if it's too much heat for me, I'll add a little liquid. Otherwise, I'll drink it straight, man. I've been known to drink 75% straight head on.
Right.
And a lot of people, that's too much for them. But again, that's when you can add ice. That's when you can add water to flavor. But ideally, I want it at the highest proof possible, and I want to drink it the way it was intended. And for everybody else, they can water it down at that point, because otherwise you're just paying for the extra water before you buy the bottle.
Ah, that makes sense. Hadn't really thought of that. So let me ask you this. What part of the country are you actually from?
I'm actually based in the D.C. area.
Oh, okay.
I live in Virginia, but I work in D.C.
Oh, okay. So how did you actually get into the spirit domain?
That's a funny story. I worked for the federal government, like we said before the conversation, and I also was big into watches. So for a long time, I was manager of a watch boutique and a watch buyer. So I was dealing with very high-end watches such as Rolex, Patek Philippe, Marc Piguet, and eventually I kept getting people telling me I should open up my own watch store. So I worked for the federal government, and I had my own watch store for about 4 years. But with everything being sold on the internet, it's really tough to have a retail business no matter how good you are. So I was the top-rated business on Yelp for 3 years, and I was bleeding money. So I had time to kill, and so I started posting my watches with whiskey just for fun, just to kill time, and it kept growing. And people, then suddenly I started getting invites to whiskey events. However, I was always working, so I could never go to a whiskey event. And that's kind of how I got started. I said, well, screw it. I'm going to have my own whiskey event. I'm going to do it on a Sunday night, which is the only day I wasn't working like 15 hours. So I tried that, and it just kind of rolled on from there. It started big. My first sponsors were Rolls-Royce and Macallan.
Wow.
So kind of when you start that way, it makes getting other sponsors relatively easy. So now I probably have close to 50 sponsors in the realms of high-end automobiles, different kinds of spirits. I deal, although I don't drink all spirits, I represent spirits brands from multiple types because, a lot of the importers import multiple kinds of whiskey. So, one of my whiskey sponsors, if it's LVMH, they cover cognac, they cover whiskey, they cover obviously champagne. So, I'm fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of those relationships as I have exclusive events come up. If they want that exposure, then they can join as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I also saw on your Instagram, by the way, your Instagram page is fantastic. Did you do all the photos yourself?
Yeah, I do. Believe it or not, I take all my photos with my iPhone. I'll take out a camera, a DSLR, maybe twice a year, and it's just too heavy for me. So I use a light box sometimes. Because the only problem with an iPhone that takes such good pictures now is sometimes you struggle with portrait mode. Sometimes you're in a bar where it's too dark and you can't get a good bottle pick. So having a good light box and then knowing how to play around with that portrait mode, you can do some damage.
Yeah, and actually years ago I was a photographer for about 20 years, and now all I use is my iPhone. I very rarely drag out the DSLR.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good enough if you know how to use it. An iPhone can definitely work magic. So why do you want to lug around huge camera equipment everywhere you go?
Right.
Where that's iPhone, and that's why it's funny. I'm big into mini bottles, and most people think I'm a mini bottle collector. That's crazy on its own because there are guys with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of mini bottles.
Really?
The collectible mini bottles, they actually cost more than the full bottle, believe it or not. Yeah, there's a Japanese whiskey called Yamazaki 18, where you can buy the full bottles already overpriced at about $600. The
Wow.
mini bottle just went on auction for about $2,500.
No way.
For a 50 milliliter bottle. Yeah, it's just because of the rarity. But I use those mini bottles as, I can literally have 2 or 3 mini bottles in my backpack at all times. So if I just happen to be in a cool location with a great backdrop, I'll just pull out a mini bottle on my iPhone and I've got a picture.
Funny that you brought that bottle up because I was actually on your Instagram page and I wanted to ask you about the Yamazaki. How does that compare to like a Tennessee whiskey or a Kentucky bourbon?
It doesn't because so Japanese whiskey is made in the style of Scotch. So it can't be called a Scotch because it's not made in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
But the process for Japanese whiskey is very similar to that of Scotch. Now, the primary difference between a Japanese and, say, a Scotch is that Asians, especially in Japan, don't like higher proof. So there's a lot of rare bourbon that goes in the Japanese market only. that kind of goes to Japan at like 80 proof, whereas in Kentucky, everything generally is 90 to 100 or higher.
Right.
In Japan, almost everything that they Japan only comes in at 80, 83.
Interesting. I've never actually had any of that, so I was just curious.
Yeah, Japan makes some great whiskey. It was kind of a hidden gem for a while, but now everybody knows Japanese, so the prices on Japanese are insane. Some trivia: prior to 2015, only Scotland and Japan won World Whiskey Awards. No other country had ever won a World Whiskey Award prior to 2015 because Japan and Scotland always won.
Really?
Now recently you've had some other Asian countries. Teeling 24 just won, so the first Irish whiskey probably that won that award. So yeah, it's now they're making great whiskey everywhere, and that's why there's no sense. There are plenty of people who have not tried other whiskeys, but just like there's a bourbon for everyone or rye for everyone, there's also a Scotch for everyone. But with Scotland, you have like in the Islay area, you've got a lot of peat, smoky penicillin tasting, which definitely some people love and some people hate. I'm not a big peat person.
Right.
You have different parts of the country, so there's a lot of different flavor profiles, and because they age in cognac, port, rum, wine cask, you get a lot of different flavors. So if you tried a Scotch that you don't love, probably you haven't tried enough Scotch to find one that you like.
I gotcha.
So you can't take one Scotch or one bourbon or one Japanese whiskey that didn't hit you just right and just make a judgment on the entire country.
Right.
Because it is very different.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any events coming up in the near future that maybe you're coming on over to Texas?
Not at the moment, but you never know. I keep my mind open. Doing events like this, when you're doing influencer-centric events, the big challenge is, number one, you have to have a venue that's willing to host you and willing to provide food and stuff, because that's a high expenditure otherwise. And then you have to make it worth their while. So if somebody in Texas decided, hey, we want to sponsor an event and work with you, and they're gracious enough to provide a venue, provide food for me, and then I have brands that are willing to participate and pay a participation fee and a bottle, then I have to bring in enough people who are willing to travel to Texas to give that event enough exposure, because they're not really doing it like the Whiskey Fest where people pay a ticketed fee. My events are free, but you have to be an influencer. So if I can't get enough influencers to give that brand exposure, then it doesn't really, it's not really value add for them. So it's not that I'm not willing to go anywhere. It's that locations that are not major cities that don't have a huge pool of influencers, it makes it the more challenging to get everything together.
Right. It all has to work together.
Yeah, correct. And I've been lucky that I know a lot of big influencers and a lot of big brands. So one of the big challenges where any Joe Schmo could do what I do, they have to have the contact and they have to have the trust from the brand.
Sure.
in order to invest in your event.
Let me ask you this: do you know Bill Bender?
Oh yeah, I know Bill.
We had him on the show.
Yeah, he was actually at my Miami event last February.
Awesome.
So yeah, cool guy.
Yeah,
great
cool
golfer.
guy, good golfer. Yeah, good golfer. In fact, the day that he was on the show, he played golf and twisted his ankle and tore a ligament. And I said, "Man, you should go to the doctor and have that checked on." And he said, "Nah, I'm drinking some 140 proof."
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks like his show's going to take off. Everything seems to be going well. He seems to have a lot of support from the brands. So yeah.
Yeah, we're excited for him. Well, hey man, we appreciate you taking the time to be on our show. So tell people how they can find you if they're looking for you. I know you're on Instagram as Scotch&Time, but what other social media platforms?
I'm pretty much, I'm on Facebook a little bit. I'm mostly on Instagram. So, Facebook is the same, Scotch&Time. Instagram, obviously Scotch&Time, or you can go to scotchandtime.com.
Okay.
Where you can see photos of upcoming events, but mostly private events. So you can see a lot of supercars. My Lamborghini events are there. My Rolls Royce events, they're all in the photos with whiskeys. So
yeah, I saw one of your whiskeys with a green Lamborghini.
Oh yeah. So we have a lot of my last event was was actually at Sterling Motor Cars, but it was with the Lamborghini Owners Club. So we'll do fun stuff like that where they'll pull out. It was called Cars and Chronos. So the Lamborghini owners came with their Lamborghinis, Ferraris, McLarens, and they brought their nice watches, and we just drank and had a party.
Sounds like fun times, man.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me.
Hey,
my
man,
wife is
thank you
probably
so
wondering
much.
Where the hell I am.
Well, hey, man, we hope your event is a huge success. And if you need anything from us, just reach out any time, man. We'd love to be here for you.
All right, no problem. When you get it all set up, just let me know, and I'll share it on my pages as well.
Okay. Hey, man, we appreciate that. We'll talk soon, and you have safe travels, brother.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that interview. We learned a lot ourselves, so we'll be drinking some scotch real soon. So anyway, we wanted to announce this week's Luxury Cigar Club winner, and hang on one second, we'll hit the randomization button, and the winner is Brandon Rozansky, and I hope I'm saying that right, but it's Rozanski. Brandon Rozansky. Anyway, we'll send you an email with a link and a code, and you will get your free Luxury Cigar Club box. It's the Platinum Edition. And, man, you know what time of the month it is. It's coming up.
Yes.
I mean, I'm already getting excited. And I haven't been paying attention.
Yes, sir.
I've been out of town, and I haven't been seeing a lot of Instagram lately. But, hey, and you guys, if you're listening and you're not hooked up with me and Bryan on Instagram,
Yes, sir.
I am under Cigar Talk Radio, and he is under Cigar Talk co-host. So send us a message, follow us, and man, we're on there pretty regular.
Yes,
so
sir.
we interact with a lot of guys who listen to the show. We get ideas from them. They give us tips.
I interacted with one today, Nick from the Cigar Pulpit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he reached out to me.
Yeah, he was from Illinois.
Yeah, listens to the show, had questions about some things, and when I get to Illinois next time, we're going to smoke up two of them.
I've got a bunch of guys that I talk to on a regular basis. What is it? And it's hard for me to remember sometimes their go by name on Instagram.
Getting old, bro.
Which like Schmidt face?
Yeah,
Schmidt face. I haven't heard from him in about a week or so,
Okay.
so I need to talk with him. He's got a lot of cool stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
I talk to Cranky Buzzard all the time. I talk to old Vic down in San Angelo.
Cigar aficionado.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many people that's where we talk at. The only thing I don't like about talking on Instagram,
What's that?
is it's really easy to lose contact with people because you're not talking to them by their name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And with some of the names, they're so funky, or there's so many names that start with cigar something
Yeah.
that it's hard for me to remember who was who. And I mean, I probably get like 30 different messages a day from 30 different people. So trying to go down and find a message is very difficult.
Yes, sir.
In
Yes,
fact, for any of you guys that may be like, genius at doing apps, here's an app idea.
Come on with it.
This would be brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. I came up with it, so you already know. So anyway, if there was an app that incorporated all your social media apps that kept like a record system or an email system to where when you put it in, you just tap on it and it like separates everybody by their name, not just their username.
And filter.
Yeah, and so that way, if you were to go and save messages, because like on Instagram, man, there's no way to save a message. So I might talk to someone 3 weeks ago, and I want to go back and talk to them, but they're like 80, 90 places down on the list, and I'm having to sort. I actually have to open the message to find it.
Okay.
But if you could like do a search and said, hey, I was talking to this guy, let's just say, and we were talking about Monte Cristo, and I could do a search for Monte Cristo and pull up that actual message, that would be the bomb.
That would be. That really would be.
So one of you geniuses out there that can create that, if you create it, we will use it.
Oh, I definitely would.
You know what I mean? I think it'd be a perfect app.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, let's talk about the Luxury Cigar Club for a minute. I mean, these guys, they add so much value every month. And here's the thing. They send you a box of 5 selected cigars, and they're not just randomly throwing 5 cigars in there. Last month, man, that God of Fire knocked me out. It was so good. And I mean, dude, that's a cigar that's been on my list for a long time. I can't find them. And then that Lancero, do you still have yours? Oh, you still have the Plasencia Lancero too. You were such a dog. Hey, so I tell you what, I gave you that.
When I say I enjoy my sticks.
I gave you that box there. Why don't you give me that God of Fire? That seems like a fair trade. So these guys take time to pick out just the most fantastic sticks.
Yes.
And here's the thing too. I mean, the platinum box is $60. Mm-hmm. I added up all the cigars from last month. Dude, $78.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm saving $18 right off the bat. And these guys are doing the work finding cigars that every month I'm just loving them.
And that's here in Texas where the sticks are not $20 for a $10 stick.
Right. I mean, you go to California, and this $60 box is going to cost you $120.
Ask Junior about that, man. When he was talking about that stick that he loved, that he smoked all the time, and it was $20 in California.
Right.
Here it was $9.
Right.
Oh, man, come on.
And whenever I did the pricing, I was using local Texas prices. And so it was $78 here. And yeah, like you say, in California, I bet that box
over
would be
100,
$120.
Yep, over 100.
So you guys go check them out. If you're listening to this episode, go by the webpage. On this episode, you can look down. You can select the link that takes you to their site. You can see what they do. A bunch of really good guys over there. Can't say enough about them. And we just appreciate them being partners with us on our giveaway every week. Really gives us an opportunity to give back to the community. And that's one of the things that I was talking to Chris, and their whole goal is to give back and make the community better.
Okay.
And so I think they're doing a great job on
sir.
that.
And Brandon will enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, before we move, I got to tell you guys, before we started the show, Bryan gets up from the table, starts walking across the room and forgets he has his headphones on and about tears down the whole room.
Oh, you gotta find something to make me uncool.
I was like, yeah, you're not cool. I was like, dude, have you been drinking?
Dude.
Anyway, I was like, well, you know what? We're happy to have him back. You know what? Last week when you weren't here, nothing got tore up.
Yeah. Anyway, so you say.
You're right.
There are no witnesses.
That's exactly right. Hey, and we also announced, guys, coming up in September, probably the third week in September, maybe the fourth week in September, we're going to be starting our YouTube channel.
Yes.
And so we're going to be doing the show every week, but we're also going to be doing the YouTube show every week. And probably the first 2 weeks, it'll just be us doing the show.
Yeah.
And then after that, once we get the hang of it, hopefully, we're going to actually be doing 2 different shows. Mm-hmm. One will be the regular podcast, and then the new one will be actually just for YouTube.
Yes, sir.
So we will be excited to launch that, see where that goes.
And it's all about the community. You are the reason we are branching out. You know, we want to reach you. We want to reach you. We want to reach you. And the only way we can is by using social media to its max.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying.
Right. And I mean, speaking of that, let's talk about McAuliffe.
Yes, sir.
You know, we're so blessed to have them as our sponsor. But
what's your number again? Oh, did you hear the crickets?
Yeah,
Rob has nothing to say.
You know what? I like my number.
I know.
298.
It's high. It's high.
It's not that high.
It's high.
I've met a lot of people who have higher numbers. But, they send out this really nice medallion.
Yes, sir.
They send you a handwritten certificate. They're a great cigar company. And I mean, dude, we're just so blessed to have them as a sponsor.
Yes, we are.
So go by. If you haven't done this yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. You got to go check them out. Go by our website, click on the link down below this episode, click on the McAuliffe Ambassador link, and go by. All you have to do is register, and that's it. It's free.
It's free.
And they will communicate with you. They find out what you like. I mean, it's like a family. And then if you already are an ambassador and you're not a member of the McAuliffe Ambassador group on Facebook, go by and do that, man. I chat with those guys all the time. Great bunch of guys.
Most definitely.
Who was it? You're going to love this. You know, Charlie from Texas City, not Texas City, but League City down in Houston area. We had him on the show
Yeah.
a few weeks back. He's an ambassador, but today he posted, something about, I haven't seen Cowboys this excited since something, kind of ragging on the Cowboys. And
Yes.
I was like, man, that's kind of hardcore. So I sent a meme back, and it was like this guy that looked super drunk, and he was like, this is what the Texans look like every season before they start the season.
I love how you Texans fight one another about Dallas and Houston, man.
Oh, like it's not that way in California.
Oh,
Come on.
Talk to Junior.
Right, exactly.
The vote dog.
Yeah. So I haven't seen Junior in a while.
Me neither. He's working, man.
Dude,
he's
that
working.
dude is working.
He's working, man.
I mean, I thought I had work ethic.
Nah.
That dude.
Yeah.
But you know what the difference is? He's young.
Yes,
He's
is.
a young man.
He's young and he's hungry.
Yes.
He's got those babies trying to get.
Right. So go by the website, click on the McAuliffe, go by, get yourself involved with the community. They have a great community. And that's another community I want to bring up real quick is the barrel burners.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude, if you haven't become a barrel burner, go by and check them out. That's probably the close-knit community of cigar groups that I know.
Yes, sir.
Those guys are doing a great job. And Jason over there, I mean, he has started something. And, I think he said there was a group of 6 of them that started it, but basically everybody's kind of, fallen off the map as far as barrel burners goes, except for him. But the community that they have is just really close.
And it's growing, too.
It is growing.
Yes.
And, they just had an event up in, I believe, New Jersey last week with Viva La Vida.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to say congratulations to them. I think it was their 1-year anniversary.
Yes, it was.
Dude, in 1 year.
The growth
yeah, it's amazing. And the reason that they've grown so much is because of what a community they are. So hats off to those guys. Congratulations again if you're a barrel burner. I see guys posting all the time. They get their patch. And,
I'm waiting on mine.
have you started?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Wow.
Come on.
I'm impressed.
Come on.
I don't have time. It's a commitment.
It is.
I'm going to tell you right now, you don't just say, hey, I want to join, and you're in.
Nope.
Like Jason said, they're not going to change. That's the way they want it because it filters out the people who are not dedicated.
Who are not dedicated, who are not true to it.
Right.
And that's what I love about it, man. It's a true community. It's close, it's tight, but it's growing because it's about something. It's about the cigar. It's about the community. It's about us. Come on, man. Who doesn't want to be a part of that?
And I agree. If I had time, that would be the group that I want to be a member of because it is such a community.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, I'm not knocking any other of the communities because they all have different relationships. They have different goals, and that's fine. But if I was going to be a part of one, that would be the one I would be a part of. And so we want to say hats off, happy birthday, happy anniversary, and just keep doing what you're doing, guys. They did a great benefit for the Cigars for Warriors.
Yes, they did.
And, hats off for helping the men and women who serve the country. So I guess that wraps up the show for this week. Is there anything? Oh, coming up next week,
yeah.
We're going to be heading over to CJ's Cigar Lounge in Brownwood. It's a brand new lounge. And I don't know if I told you this, but I went by there and they weren't open yet.
Okay.
But when you go by there, it's a cool looking place. It's downtown. It's old downtown Brownwood.
Okay.
And I believe it's on Baker Street. I could have that wrong. But anyway, you go by the shop and the front of the building is like all glass, but it's all tinted so you can't see in.
Okay.
But then the front doors, it's 2 red doors, and the 2 doors, just one door by itself, I'm going to guess is like 6 foot by 12 feet. They're ginormous, and they're bright red.
The brick and mortar, man.
Hey, but what's cool is those aren't the actual doors. When they're open, those 2 doors open up, and then you have the regular doors. But it's a really cool looking. In fact, I took a picture of it. I'll have to show it to you. But yeah, that's a cool place. We're going to go by there and interview CJ and check out what he's got going on over there.
That's next week.
Yeah, so you guys hope you tune in, check it out, and between now and then, shoot us some emails. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about, and you know what? We love getting ideas from you guys.
Yes, we do.
I talked to a guy yesterday that was like, hey, man, would you be interested in interviewing a cigar shop owner in Canada? And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And did you know I'm half Canadian? I'm serious. Are you saying you knew that already, or you didn't
Nope.
know? I'm half Canadian. My mom was from Alberta, Canada.
Okay. How did she wind up in Texas?
Her dad was from Texas.
Okay.
You can't figure that
No,
out.
I can't.
Her mother, my grandmother, married a Texan. So I don't know how that came
I
about.
was just going to say, how did that come about?
I don't know how that came about. But anyway, in fact, my mother growing up in Texas, at one point, I don't know what changed, but she had to actually pick to be a U.S. citizen or a Canadian citizen.
Okay.
And so, of course, living in Texas, she went with the
with
U.S.
yeah.
But we used to go to Canada every summer when I was growing up and talk about, the movie Family Vacation. Dude. You're laughing, but I'm
I can
serious.
see it in my mind.
I mean, whatever could go wrong. And let me tell you, I was going to tell you this quick little story before we go. Like one year when we went, we took 2 cars. My mom and dad were in one car. My grandmother drove the other car. And it was me, my younger brother, my cousin. So we're like caravanning up to Canada. And me and my cousin are riding with my grandmother. And I want to say she's probably 60 at this time. And so we're following my mom and dad, and we're somewhere up in like Montana driving up there. And I remember being in the back seat, and you remember when you were a kid back in the 70s, you were all over the car.
Everywhere.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like you were strapped in a seatbelt. You were in the front seat, the back seat, you were up in the window.
We didn't have seatbelt laws back then.
So anyway, I remember my grandmother, we were following my mom and dad, and they're going, and my grandmother turns off and says, they're going the wrong way. And we just turn off. And I mean... And, we're just like, okay, whatever. So then we got separated. There were no cell phones back in the 70s.
No, there weren't.
Dude, we were lost for 5 hours. You know how my parents found us?
How?
They pulled up and stopped on an overpass and just waited.
Until you came back through.
That's how the 70s were. There was no smartphone. There was no GPS. It was just grandmother was stubborn, and she was like, they're going the wrong way.
I got a funny story. Every summer we went to Memphis because that's where my dad's family is from, where is based. So this one summer we were going, we piled in. We had a Chevy conversion van, and I'm sitting in the back, and I fell asleep. And it's the summer, remember? We get to around about Jackson, Tennessee. I wake up and look out the window, and it's white everywhere. And I said, Mama, the season changed. It's snowing. She said, no, boy, that's cotton.
Hey, and I grew up in West Texas where there's cotton
everywhere.
And yeah, it looks like snow.
Oh, man, that blew my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, guys, that's enough about our old past back from the 70s. And we will see you next week. And until then,
keep smoking.